Hello and welcome to the Askew Social Distancing Bible Sunday School Synopsis. Today our lesson is coming from Genesis as it has been for the last few lessons. And we're still talking about Joseph. The title of the lesson is Revealed Love. I want to send some love out to some people who have recently been diagnosed with the COVID virus, but seem to be doing really well. But I just want to send some love out to these people, okay? You ready? Starting with the first verse, going to the 15th verse, revealed love. Joseph couldn't hold himself in any longer. Keeping up a front before all his attendants, he cried out, "Leave! Clear out! Everyone leave!" So there was no one with Joseph when he identified himself to his brothers. But his sobbing was so violent that the Egyptians couldn't help but hear him. The news was soon reported to Pharaoh's palace. Joseph spoke to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father really still alive?" But his brothers couldn't say a word. They were speechless. They couldn't believe what they were hearing and seeing. "Come closer to me," Joseph said to his brothers. They came closer. "I am Joseph, your brother whom you sold into Egypt. But don't feel badly. Don't blame yourselves for selling me. God was behind it. God sent me here ahead of you to save lives. There has been a famine in the land now for 2 years. The famine will continue for 5 more years. Neither plowing nor harvesting, God sent me on ahead to pave the way and make sure there was a remnant in the land to save your lives in an amazing act of deliverance. So, you see, it wasn't you who sent me here, but God. He set me in a place as a father to Pharaoh, put me in charge of his personal affairs, and made me ruler of all Egypt. Hurry back to my father. Tell him, your son Joseph says I'm master of all Egypt. Come as fast as you can and join me here. I'll give you a place to live in Goshen where you'll be close to me. You, your children, your grandchildren, your flocks, your herds, and anything else you can think of. I'll take care of you there completely. There's still 5 more years of famine ahead. I'll make sure all your needs are taken care of. You and everyone connected with you. You won't want for a thing. Look at me. You can see for yourselves, and my brother Benjamin can see for himself. That is me, my own mouth telling you all this. Tell my father all about the high position I hold in Egypt. Tell him everything you've seen here, but don't take all day. Hurry up and get my father down here." Then Joseph threw himself on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept on his neck. He then kissed all his brothers and wept over them. Only then were his brothers able to talk with him. And so we have read the word. We have read a story that has meaning for our lives today as well. How so, you might ask? Well, one of the things that we must remember is that often the way that we see things is not really how they are. Things look terrible sometimes. But faith tells us that God is in everything. No matter how hard things look, no matter how much physical pain we're in, or emotional pain, or how much our story that we have written in our heads is not the story that we are experiencing. But if we could just remember that God is the writer of our story. He is the director, producer. He is the writer. He is the caster of the story that we live. If we just could remember that And then remember that we are not just children of God, but divine children of God. And why do I say divine children of God? Because divinity lives within us. We are the creation, each and every one of us of God. And he doesn't just have a plan for our lives, but his plan is for the life of us all. He has the whole picture. He has the whole puzzle. We are just puzzle pieces in his story. And so we would save ourselves a lot of grief if we would just say, what you teaching me, God? Show me what this is. Reveal you in my story. And look forward, even if at that moment we can't see what it means. Look forward to it being the story that God has written that's good for us. Sometimes we see our children develop and we see things in them that we don't want to see. We think that we are supposed to get in there and shape them and mold them and make them who we want them to be. But God is the Father of our children as well as of us. And so what we have to have is faith at all times that God is working in their lives, even when we see them struggle. It is not our job to get in there and fix things, but our job to listen to that Holy Spirit that is within our heads that tells us what to do in this story. In this story, Joseph's father just grieved. Jacob just grieved. He believed not only that had he lost his quote-unquote favorite son, he thought everything was lost. Benjamin thought his brother was lost, and even those who sold him into slavery thought he was dead. But you see what God had in mind. He had a plan for Joseph's life as he created him as a dreamer. He had a plan even in the midst of the brothers' jealousy for them to sell him into Egypt. Now, you say, well, how could God plan the evil in their minds? God didn't make them evil. What God does is allow our free will. He allows us to do what we do when we're wrong and when we're right, but he always makes right of it. He always benefits the whole of us. And so for right now, I'm sure you've asked yourself, why now, Lord? Why did you take Ruth Bader Ginsburg right now? Why are we experiencing a situation where we've got a president who says that he might not accept the election? He's saying that the votes will be faulty. He's telling us ahead of time that he's going to fight, and he's encouraging people to get their guns ready. You might say, well, that's political. No, that is what we're living through now. This is the time we're living through. But I believe that God is underneath it. I believe that we as a country have not always acted in the best interests of each other. And what we're seeing now is a situation where there are people who are showing us what it looks like to only act in the interests of themselves. We lost a case this week with the Breonna Taylor situation where her mother is devastated because on the one hand, they granted this lady $12 million, quote unquote, because of the loss of her daughter's life. But at the same time, they said no wrong was done. We don't have anybody to blame. Because a human being in their house thinking that someone else was bursting in on them shot, and they shot back. 6 shots, if not 7 or 8, that went into a woman and killed her. It wasn't the fault of the policeman. On the one hand, they charged one policeman for reckless endangerment, but then the others didn't get any charges, but surely it was reckless to shoot that many times into an apartment where you couldn't see who you were shooting. So you see how convoluted our world is. But just know this, God's got it. He's got it. He had Joseph. He had Joseph's brothers. He had Jacob the father. He had Benjamin. All those names, he had them in the palm of his hand, just like that song we used to sing. He's got the whole world in his hand. He's got the little bitty baby. He's got you and me, brother, in his hand. 'Tis true now. So sometimes maybe when we're thinking, oh, it's terrible and we need to doubt, maybe what we need to do is switch up our songs. And instead of a little Jay-Z or Kurt Franklin or whatever our favorite song is, maybe we need to go back to that childhood song and sing, He's got the whole world in his hand. I have enjoyed talking with you. I hope you've enjoyed listening. I'm open to any ideas that you have, any differences of opinion, criticisms, whatever. I'm open to it because I learn through, we learn, all of us learn through each other. So if you want to share something, you know my number. I think you know my email number. And you also can respond here on Facebook, or I think you can respond on YouTube. I'm not sure about that. My son handles it. But he'll get any question, any comment that you have, he'll get it back to me. And for those of you who have commented, most of you complimentary, thank you. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Next week is going to be October the 4th. Can you believe it? Love you. Bye-bye.